Golf has a long history in New Zealand. It's our most popular organised sport with more players than any other. You could even say it's our true national game. In terms of the number of golf courses per capita, we are second in the world only to Scotland, and as a percentage of the population, there are a greater number of players here than even in the home of golf. And Scotland is where any history of golf begins. By 1863, the father of modern golf, old Tom Morris, along with Willie Parkes Sr., both seen here at St Andrews, had each won 2 of the first 4 Open Championships. Golf was very much a Scottish pastime, with only around 30 golf clubs there, and perhaps just 2 in England. Only 2 courses are believed to have had 18 holes, with most still having just 5 to 10. Golf was far from the global game it is today, with 38,000 courses in more than 200 countries. That same year, 1863, attempts were made to form the first golf club in New Zealand. The southern city of Dunedin in the province of Otago was founded by Scottish settlers in 1848 and was originally going to be called New Edinburgh. What made Dunedin dramatically different from other New Zealand cities was that 75% of early European settlers came from Scotland, whereas the rest of the country was dominated by English migrants. Months at sea, travelling the 18,000 kilometres from Scotland to Dunedin, had not been enough to dampen some golfers' passion for the game. Just as Edinburgh was home to the first club in Scotland, it looked like Dunedin would be home to our first club. In September 1863, Robert Souter, an Edinburgh-born printer working at the Otago Daily Times, ran this advertisement seeking gentlemen desirous of forming a golf club, as in Edinburgh or St Andrews. Over the next few weeks, articles appeared promoting golf and its character building and health benefits. It was even stated that all the requisites for a golf club had been ordered from Scotland, and suggested the first golf course be at the recreation ground, now Kensington Oval. While it is reported that some informal and infrequent games were played in the 1860s, attempts to form a club would come to nothing. It would not be until September 1871 that another attempt was made to found a club. A number of advertisements ran in Otago newspapers inviting those interested in forming a golf club to meet at Wayne's Hotel on Mad Street. The undersigned invite all persons willing to form a golf club in Dunedin to meet at Wayne's Hotel, Mad Street on Saturday evening, 16th September next, at 8 o'clock. Play on the afternoon of Saturday on the green behind the Edinburgh Castle Hotel, Caversham. Saturday the 16th of September 1871 would see not only the birth of our first golf club, but the first ever formal games of golf played. These games took place behind the now departed Edinburgh Castle Hotel on the South Road, bordered by Catherine and Lang Streets in Caversham. Annual membership dues were set at £1 guinea, a modest $155 in today's money, and the club would soon seek a more permanent home.
So the first club was actually the Dunedin Golf Club, and that was founded in 1871, which is where we essentially establish our roots and ties. It is the 4th oldest in the world outside of the British Isles. There were 28 members originally, and they petitioned the council and secured permission to use part of the old town greenbelt in Mornington as a course. The pub was the club rooms, and they kept all their gear there. When they first established, they had to send it back over to Scotland for golf clubs. But they kept all the gear there, all the golf clubs, and unfortunately the publican then went broke, and all the everything in the pub was sold up, and including all the golf clubs and kit for about £1 or £2. The club shared the playing surface, as it was a municipal area, with cattle and sheep. That became less acceptable as time went on. So they petitioned the council again for permission to exclude the cattle and the sheep. That was successful, but the law of unintended consequences kicked in. And what they found without the natural lawnmowers was that they couldn't actually find their golf balls, and golf became untenable in that area. And for a little while they found ground down by the mills down in Roslyn. They then went a bit further afield and went to the area which we colloquially called the paddock holes, which is what we call our now 2, 3, 4, 5, along with some additional area on Bishop's Court. The clubhouse was then opened in 1896, in February of 1896, but the course at that point was being played in 1895. They then bought some further land, which is the land we now play on, in 1901 for the princely sum of £1,650 from a syndicate known as the Balmacean Park Co. And that was basically the establishment of a permanent home. Charles Ritchie Howden was the founder, if you like. He was also the first club captain. Now, he was a Scotsman born in Edinburgh. He entered the wine and spirit business in Dunedin and started the NZ Distillery Company, which did flourish at the time. He was not only the driving force in 1871, but when the club went into abeyance, and after it went into abeyance, when he returned from Scotland, he also was the driving force for the re-emergence of the golf club. So a fantastic founder, and certainly you look at him and he looks the part of a gent of the age.
But the Howden influence in New Zealand golf didn't stop with Charles. His younger brother D.B. Howden was founding captain of Hutt Golf Club, the first club in the North Island, which was formed after a meeting at his house. CR's son Alistair was club champion at Otago, a founder of Invercargill Golf Club, and would later be club captain at Auckland Golf Club. Alistair was an excellent cricketer and was selected to play for New Zealand in 1910. One newspaper reporting, "It is the opinion of many experts that he is, without exception, the best bowler in New Zealand." Other notable founding members of our first golf club included John Roberts, later Sir John, a leading businessman and later mayor of Dunedin, who amassed a fortune of $55 million in today's money from wool and shipping. Notably, both his son and grandson would go on to be chairman of the New Zealand Golf Council. Perhaps the only Englishman among the Scots founders was Professor George Sale. Born in Rugby and educated in Cambridge, when he arrived in New Zealand he is reported to have burned his top hat and tails on the beach. William Dick Murison was a founding club committee member and born in Perthshire, Scotland. He no doubt helped promote the club through his role as editor of the Otago Daily Times, a former MP and representative cricketer for Otago. His legacy is that he donated the Bruntsfield Medal in 1873 that is still played for today.
The men's club and the women's club didn't amalgamate until 2009. So the ladies golf club was established in 1892 with 23 ladies. Boys or youths were able to also be members of the ladies club on application rather than the men's club. So the ladies club has a proud history of its own, and it wasn't without some consideration when the two clubs actually merged in 2009. The ladies club must have been reasonably well established, at least when it first came into existence, because in 1893 the Otago Golf Club, men's golf club, held the first national men's amateur. And in the same year, the women's held the first national women's amateur. So they were, they had no place in the clubhouse, which wouldn't be seen today, but the old clubhouse had no ladies' facilities at all. So it still does retain its links and its history, and I think that still is quite important, because it still was a very early founder of New Zealand golf, and certainly was the first ladies golf club in New Zealand.
In an interesting early incident, it was recorded that Sir John Hoskins, a Supreme Court judge, spoke to Miss Rattray regarding giving boys tea and cakes on the veranda of the club rooms, which was forbidden. Clearly it didn't hinder Miss Rattray's golf. She would go on to be New Zealand ladies champion 3 times, and also president of the National Ladies Golf Union.
The, one of the real coups that we've got, I guess, is that first amateur championship, which I spoke about before, was the first amateur championships, national amateur championships, staged outside of Britain and India. So well before Australia, before the US, before South Africa. You know, this is quite an old event. So it's again a nice piece of history. In terms of some of the players and major champions that have played here, Walter Hagen, Gene Sarazen, Peter Thompson, who won the New Zealand Open here several times, Bobby Locke. The other story is of an exhibition match between Bob Charles and Arnold Palmer. Arnold took out his driver and gave it a lash, 370 yards from an elevated tee, and drove the green. Now there's some varying stories about, I've heard about whether he two-putted or three-putted. My understanding from someone who was there said, no, he didn't three-putt, he two-putted, and Bob Charles made birdie the old-fashioned way. The other remarkable story, and I find it remarkable in terms of the era, again, in terms of the distance, was Gary Player's hole-in-one on the 8th. Well, the ball that he used is still upstairs. But I mean, if you look at the 8th hole and the configuration of the 8th hole, a hole-in-one there with the equipment of the day is quite an achievement to get to that green with that. The story goes, or the plaque at least has, and I have it on good authority from James Aiken, who was there at the time, was that his opponent at the time in the exhibition made two and lost the hole, which is rather unfortunate.